Yeah, no, it's always going to come out in the end, so it's always best just to be upfront, especially with your attorney. That's the person you should be able to talk to and you know, let your attorney know what's going on so they can decide the best course of action.
Well, I wasn't sitting in the right position to see the face of the attorney. I could only see the back of his head, and all I could see him kind of like nodding up and down. But, you know, I've studied body language. You know, I've read books on it. I've watched videos on it, on studying people when they're truthfulness of people. You know, it's always good to be able to see when someone's not telling you something. You can't necessarily know that they're lying, but you can know they're not telling you something, or they're withholding information, or they're uncomfortable, and you know there's something that they should be saying, but they're not. And very clearly, all the indicia on the guy was he was being deceitful. And it was, you know, I mean, clearly, you know, pursing his lips and covering his mouth and grabbing his body and covering himself. I said to myself, and I turned to my client, I go, guess what? She goes, he's lying. I go, yeah. She caught it too, but then, of course, she works for the federal government, so she kind of should have, you know, the kind of job she does. It deals with people's honesty and dishonesty, so she also picked up on it real quickly. You know, I know the guy was really loud about being dishonest or withholding information, but that was the problem. If you don't tell your attorney what he needs to know to protect you, you know, it's really bad. You know, I've had several clients that come in, and I kind of pick up on that stuff. When they're not telling me something, I just start asking questions until I finally hit the button.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like opening up a plug, like the kid with the finger in the dam, and the dam breaks open, and all this information comes out.
The floodgates open.
The floodgates
goodness.
Open. Yes, yes, yes. I feel like the little kid, not with the kid with plugging it, but the kid pulling it out. You know, I'm a naughty guy. What can I say? I like to pull out the plugs. But, yeah, no, listen, I mean, truthfulness is very important, but not if you're in the federal government, I understand.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Listen, can you believe it? I mean, do you honestly believe that somebody in the IRS could lose 4 years of emails? All of a sudden, whoops, they're gone.
That's pretty incredible.
We had a computer glitch, and we've lost these emails. A federal government agency losing the triplicates that they must make of emails. Somebody has a copy of this email, but they deleted them. They lost them all. Did I say deleted? They lost them all. This learner woman is one of those people that I'm not suggesting that she gets tarred and feathered, but I think in the 19th century she would have been one of those people that got tarred and feathered and taken out of town. You know, at this point in time, you know, the fact that she's, you know, they should take her to court and sue her so she doesn't get any of her retirement money because, you know, she's betrayed the American government. She betrayed the American people. I'm a people's advocate. I believe that she had an obligation, and the fact that they have... Did I say deleted again? No, I said I lost 4 years of emails. I wonder what's on these emails. All those communications with different Democratic representatives discussing how they could use the IRS as their own, you know, whip to whip other people that they don't like. I don't know. It's shocking to me. Shocking to me. All right, well, this is unrelated to People's Advocate, or is it?
I think it's pretty related.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So, listen, I understand that you did a little research today, and you found some very interesting things in the news, other than my shenanigans.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always very interesting things going on, even dealing with tax. And one of the things that I came across today when I was just doing a little reading on Forbes, which is one of my favorite websites to get tax information.
Have you noticed that Forbes has now got gray hair? I remember when he dyed it. He stopped dyeing his hair. Oh, I know. It's unrelated. Go ahead.
So I came across something very interesting, actually, and it actually relates a lot to what I talk about with my clients when we deal with the IRS. And I always tell my clients, you know, one of the reasons that you want to hire an attorney when you're dealing with tax-related issues is so you know your rights. And a lot of people don't realize that they actually do have rights when they're going before the IRS.
They have rights?
They do.
They have the rights to just give them money.
Well, that's, you know, that's one of the IRS's rights, to take money. But they did a very interesting survey of taxpayers in the U.S., and in 2012, only 46% of taxpayers thought that they actually had any rights before the IRS. And only 11% of taxpayers actually know what those rights are.
11% of the taxpayers?
That's right. So the IRS has actually released what they're calling a taxpayer bill of rights, and it essentially goes through the rights that the IRS lays out that the taxpayers have when they're dealing with the IRS with tax issues. Pretty interesting. One of them is the right to be informed, which I think is really important. The taxpayer should always know what's going on with their case. There shouldn't be any wool over anyone's eyes, and they should always know, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the
Who's
the
supposed
lost
to Who's supposed to keep
emails.
them informed? Who's supposed to keep them informed?
Well, the IRS is the one that is obligated to keep them informed, but it always helps when you have an attorney working with the IRS who understands how the IRS works.
And returns your phone calls?
It's always a little bit easier when your attorney calls the IRS. For some reason, they're a lot more apt to return your call. It's always a good thing.
Yes, attorneys that return phone calls are actually not a general rule. You know, a lot of attorneys just wait and wait. I had one guy who came to me. He says, "I'm coming to you because my attorney hasn't returned my phone call. I've called him 3 times, and it's been 2 weeks."
Wow.
I love clients like that because then when I call them back the same day something happens,
They're so
they get
happy.
yeah. I'm a great believer in email, so I like to show things by email. I have great difficulties when I get a client that doesn't use email just because it's like, oh my God, got to go back to the old days.
Yeah.
You know, when they had the carts and the horses, and they used to deliver the mail, with the carts and the horses, or the what do you call it, the not Western Union, the Fargo, the Express.
Oh,
with the
Pony
horses,
Express.
Pony Expresses,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
deliver the mail. To me, using an envelope is like going back in time.
I know.
We're so advanced these days, or at least my office is. And I have a friend of mine. He's close to 88 years old.
Wow.
And I went to his office, and it's kind of like he's insulated in the law practice. He does everything the old way, and then it gets handed outside of his office, and then it gets converted into the future. It's like in his office, he's still got a typewriter on his desk.
No, he does not.
Yes, he does. He still has a typewriter on his desk.
Oh, my goodness.
His secretary doesn't, though. But and he still dictates.
Wow.
Yep. They didn't tell him.
I
but
think we should bring that back. I like that.
dictate. I like to be a dictator. You want to be a dictator? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I think that would be great fun.
You've never heard of Dragon? That's a dictator, And that's exactly what they do. He actually dictates letters and stuff like that. And the secretary installed a software called Dragon on her computer. And she has trained the computer to understand his dialect, because everybody speaks a little differently and the computer has to be trained. And so basically he thinks she's typing up everything that he says, and all she's really doing is pressing a button. It gets translated to a Word document, and then she edits it so it looks good.
What a smart cookie.
She is a very
Good
smart
for her
cookie.
or him.
Although I do understand he is retiring this year. I don't know what he's going to do because, the guy just wants to work.
Yeah, if you're working till 88, you obviously love your job, and you probably don't know what to do when you're done.
I don't know if he loves it, except that I think that's what defines
all
him.
you know.
That's what all
Yeah.
Of course, you aren't just work.
No,
I understand that you're intending to take a quick little vacation somewhere.
I am.
Where are you going?
Well, hopefully I'm going to Argentina soon.
Oh my God! No, maybe. I don't know. I understand that we found it in our budget to pay for your flight, so we want you to know you're going.
That's exciting.
Yes. Now, we just got to come up with the spending money because I know how shopaholic you are. So, anyways, it's always fun to be in other countries. And, of course, now you're going to go down there and learn a little bit about their tax law, right?
That's right.
That's right. That's absolutely not. You're not going to go near any of the law. You're going to go down there and have lots of fun. Hopefully you get a chance to go to the Gazoo Falls.
Absolutely. Hopefully a tango lesson.
Ooh, a tango lesson.
Eat lots of steak and drink lots of wine. It should be good. I think traveling is so important.
I think it opens you up to so many more things. But, of course, I don't know if their country has any people's advocates. Do you think they have them down there?
I don't know.
I hope they do.
Maybe I'll find one.
There you go.
I'll find our Argentinian counterpart.
From your lips to God's ears. So, listen, I got an email. This gentleman, John, and his name is John. It's not like it's a fake name. It's really his name.
Not John Doe.
Nope, not John Doe. I won't say his last name because it's kind of personal. He found himself in foreclosure, and they actually went to final judgment, and they actually foreclosed on his property. And in that process, he got a waiver of deficiency. And then they're now going to be foreclosed on by the association because the new owners, i.e. the bank, didn't pay the association fees.
Oh, no.
So now the association is foreclosing the bank out.
Oh, goodness.
And he's wondering if he's able to buy that property back out at the foreclosure sale. Well, if the association is foreclosing out the owner, i.e. the bank, he can buy it. There's no question about it.
There's no issue with that?
No issue with
Wow.
that, because in that situation, the association is foreclosing out the bank.
Yeah.
And the association, if whoever buys that property will buy it free and clear of the first mortgage.
Right.
And
So is this his home? Did he have personal ties to it? Is that why he wants it back?
but he wants it back.
Yeah.
It just is the way he wants. Now, there was another one very similar, where the guy ended up getting a final judgment, and as part of the consent final judgment, where he agreed that he was going to lose the case, he just wanted to get more time, and he ended up getting a consent final judgment issued against him. But in the consent final judgment, it says that they're going to waive the right to pursue any deficiency.
Okay.
And now he wants to short sell it. For some reason, he's decided, even though he's got a final judgment, he wants to do a short sale. And he said, well, does that mean that agreement in the final judgment to waive the deficiency, would that extend to the short sale? And the answer to that question is most likely not. What they're going to have to do to make it work is they're going to have to get in the short sale agreement with the bank a statement in there that they're going to waive the right to pursue the deficiency. And the waiver of the right to pursue deficiency is not necessarily what I consider to be a forgiveness of debt.
It's an interesting question.
And the argument to me is, if they're waiving their right to pursue the deficiency, that is not forgiving debt. They're just waiving their right to pursue it. So I argue that a 1099 should not be issued under those circumstances unless, as an additional step, they're forgiving the debt.
Yeah. I think that makes sense, that if they can't pursue, if they're waiving their right to pursue the deficiency, that, it's still out there. They're just deciding not to pursue the debt. Now, some banks will still issue the 1099.
Mean banks.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes it's also a software issue that they have. Regardless of whether they actually waive the debt or forgive the debt, they'll still issue it. So it's always important to check your mail and make sure that you're opening everything that seems pertinent.
Otherwise, what happens in the future?
It could be very, very bad when Uncle Sam comes around and tries to collect tax plus interest plus penalties. Not a good thing.
You actually have seen something very similar like that recently, didn't you? You saw somebody got, like, 2 years later, they came back and said, by the way, you owe us some tax money.
Yeah.
They may not be fast about it up front, but they do come and get you. How long does the IRS have to come back and ask you for money?
The IRS has a 10-year statute of limitations
So
to collect
10
a
years
tax.
ago, while we were young and unaware, it can come back and bite us.
That's right. Now, the reality is they usually will not come back after about 5 years.
Why?
It just, it's old and cold, as they say. It doesn't make sense to pursue anymore there, unless it's something, it's a huge tax debt that makes sense for them to come after. But, there's new stuff going on.
What's huge?
Well, I mean, it's, that's a relative term. I mean, I've seen the IRS go after small amounts of money, but, if you're talking the 50,000, 100,000
In tax liability.
600,000. I mean, that's really the big fish that the IRS, $1 million.
And usually they're going to come back looking at that 10-year period as if they found out you've been a bad boy in the last 5. They say, well, let's take a look back
then
few more.
Then they can do some digging and they can go back to year 7,
You
8,
mean that
9.
if they catch me once, they're allowed to look at the rest of me?
Even worse, if it's fraud, you have any fraud involved, they can go back forever.
Forever?
Forever.
Forever?
There's no deadline.
So, like, I'm 41 years old. Yeah, I'm lying. So
I was going to go along with it.
yeah, it's very nice of you. Very
It's a radio.
Yeah, it's a radio. They can't see. Yeah, but it is feeding live.
That's true.
And by the way, if they wanted to call in and ask us some questions, they can send us an email and watch us on live feed on WNN 1470.com. Or they can give us a call in at 888-565-1470. And we're here to answer your questions. We're not just here to jibber-jabber, although we will jibber-jabber. And we will talk about different things that are interesting to you. But I just thought it was really interesting that people are starting to write in emails. And,
Absolutely.
it's pretty exciting to get people calling in as well, which I haven't had anybody call in recently. But I guess we'll have to go out there and provoke you people sitting in the cars in the rain.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Call us, ask us questions. This is the People's Advocate. If you're shy to come on the radio and shy to send us emails and you want a free consultation, we're here for you. You can give us a call at 954-320-6940 and set up a free consultation. You're welcome to come on and sit down with us. We'll discuss your issues and see where things are going for you and come up with some strategies or some solutions for you. And if it turns out to be appropriate and you find the need, we can always be retained. But like I said, the free consultation is really just to discuss your issues and see where you're at. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting what's going on out there today. I've seen that things are improving out there in the marketplace. Allegedly, supposedly, the economy is coming back around.
That's good to hear.
I don't see people getting pay raises. So inflation's still hurting the pay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this minimum wage increase? Are you for it or against it?
I'm totally for it. I mean, it's hard to survive off the current minimum wage amount as it is.
What is the current minimum wage?
You know, it's it's kind of funny. I was actually looking at a little poster recently, and I think it's up to like $10.75 or something like that.
You're dreaming. $8.29.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
$8.29.
Okay, I don't feel so bad. I thought I was really old and it had increased substantially since I was working at minimum wage. It was like $6.
$10. No, it's shocking. $8.29. I think the guys that working the controls here are making a little bit more than that. I hope. He was going to get a job at McDonald's. I don't know. He was eating McDonald's. Is that what it was? No, he doesn't eat at McDonald's. Okay, fine. So. Anyways, he didn't seem to smile at that one, so I don't think he liked my sense of humor. He's like, leave me out of this. I'm here tech man. I'm not here to be bothered. But it's true.
So what are they thinking of increasing it to?
Well, I heard that Seattle wants to shoot it up to $12 an hour. Now, Seattle's an expensive place to live, and I think $12 an hour is probably not enough. But I don't know. Here's my thing. I mean, a curmudgeon like myself will pay you as little as he has to, So, of course that's not true because I overpay my people, but that's just because I'm just really generous. But most people are not. But I don't know anybody right now that can survive at $12 an hour.
No, let alone
$8.29.
No.
It's really funny because you see most people in South Florida are paid less than $40,000 a year.
Which is incredible when you think about housing costs.
Well, that's before taxes. That's less than $3,500 a month. So here you are at $3,500 a month. And by the way, if you're a single person living by yourself, you're not allowed to make $3,500 a month if you want to file Chapter 7. Unless you have some special expenses that are exceptional expenses, you're not going to pass the means test because it's $3,497 a month. And if you make more than that, you can't file for Chapter 7. Doesn't matter what the reality is. But, you look out there housing. You can't live in a decent neighborhood where, your car won't be broken into for less than $1,200 a month for a one-bedroom. You can't find a car, that's safe on the road for less than a certain amount. I just can't see how people are actually able to pay and maintain a reasonable, acceptable lifestyle when you're making less than $4,000 a month.
I can't either, and I can't imagine anyone being opposed to an increase of the minimum wage. I mean, to me, that boggles my mind.
Well, there's a lot of things that haven't changed that kind of boggles my mind, like the exemptions in bankruptcy. Okay, there's a $1,000 personal asset exemption, and if you were to go through anybody's home and you say, okay, what's the retail price of these things? Realistically speaking, you have a two-bedroom house. You've got $2,000, $3,000 worth of furniture at least.
At least, I mean, I think that's
now
even conservative.
we go to Craigslist, and it's still going to be a lot of money. They see the flat screen TV, they think, okay, it's worth $500. Well, you may be able to buy it on Craigslist for $250, but retail price is $500. And you're looking at all these things, and you're saying to yourself, $1,000 exemption, which was created back in the 1970s. They haven't upgraded it based upon inflation. It's still there, $1,000.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. $1,000 car. Unless you're
maybe a bicycle. You can get a bicycle for that.
Or a cheap motorcycle.
Yeah. There you go.
But it's not a car with air conditioning.
No. And I think especially on these rainy days in South Florida, if you don't have a car.
Oh my gosh. No, it's just that they have all these expectations on people to go through bankruptcy, and it's supposed to give you a fresh start. But I think that these numbers have to be changed. It's in committee. People are talking about it, but it doesn't seem like Tallahassee has much accomplishments when it comes to anything that's I'm sure that some of the criminal laws that they've passed have been useful to our society, such as Amber Alert and that kind of stuff. But with the exception of those kind of laws, they generally don't do very much when it comes to what's beneficial to the masses. They just changed the law here for the foreclosure stuff last year, and they brought in magistrates so that since they couldn't push through making Florida an administrative state, where you can basically within 6 months take a property through foreclosure, they realized, well, we can't do it and turn it into an administrative state, then let's make the judiciary move faster. And so they made it so that every foreclosure judge gets access to magistrates so that they can move the system through faster, because they don't really want people to hold the banks at bay for 2-3 years like we generally used to be able to. Right now, because of the way they've changed the law, if I don't fight you and defend on behalf of the client, the foreclosure could be over in 6 months.
Wow, that's quite a change.
Quite a change. Yeah, when it would take 2-3 years without any help. And now fighting back and trying to make the banks go through the hoops and prove their case, a year and a half is typical, which is a lot faster.
Yeah.
And of course, using the magistrates makes everything goes much quicker for the judges. And I appreciate the fact that the judges would like the help. But these things were passed through because it became politically unacceptable to try to convert us into an administrative state where it basically I foreclose unless there's some law been broken. It goes through administratively, and within 6 months the sale happens. There are lots of ways to postpone losing your home, and there's lots of ways to work the system, shall we say, in order for you to get the best benefits while in bankruptcy or while in foreclosure. So, but it's once again, it's frustrating to see things that should have happened to begin with. One of the things that just happened recently under Regulation X. I've been saying since 2008, how can a bank continue to foreclose on somebody when they're doing loss mitigation with you?
Yeah.
It's like an insult to injury. I mean, okay, you're foreclosing now. We're doing this modification. You're keeping the modification process for 2 years, and all of a sudden I have a sale date next month, and you still haven't decided whether I get a modification or not. I've been in favor of stopping the dual track, which is what that calls, going in both directions simultaneously, and it took until January of this year for that to become the law. Now, of course, the law is governing the banks, not the courts. So I've got a couple of judges in Miami that have kind of shocked me, because what they'll do is they said, well, listen, I'm not canceling the trial.
Interesting. And what is their basis for?
Well, they're saying that the law doesn't cover the state court; it covers the bankers. So the lenders are being told, dismiss the case or break the law.
Wow.
Now that's wonderful for me as an attorney, but it may mean that some of these loss mitigation opportunities, that somebody's in a loan modification and it looks like they might get the loan modification, we're processing it, but because the bank wants to move forward with the foreclosure sale, decides to just out of right deny, because the banks don't have to give you a modification.
That's right.
You know that they're not legally obliged to do any of this stuff.
I know, which is crazy. I mean, when you really think about it, wouldn't it make sense to help people stay in their homes?
Well, considering they've created the nightmare that the kids have. I mean, listen.
Absolutely. I mean, especially because they created the nightmare. But regardless, it seems more cost effective to the banks anyway to just let you stay in your home, pay as much as you can, work something out.
Are you a socialist? That sounds like a liberal socialist value. I mean, what do you mean let them stay in their houses? Bah humbug. No, you're right. It seems like the right thing to do, and from the people's advocate's position, it's the right thing to do. Listen, I don't know if anybody's out there, but if you're interested, feel free to give us a call at 888 565 1,470. You can also look at us on the radio. We're at www.NN1470.com. We're here for you. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call in at 888-565-1470. We're here to answer your questions. This is the People's Advocate, and I'm sitting here with Lauren Smalis, and Lauren is a tax expert. What does that mean?
It means I love taxes.
I understand that you actually do enjoy taxes.
I do. I find them very fascinating, which surprises and startles a lot of people.
Let me ask you, flat tax or no tax?
I think we should keep the different levels of taxation. But
Really?
I do. I think it makes sense.
You know, I've had arguments with people because I really don't have a strong opinion because, taxes are taxes, but I'd like them to go ahead and wipe out income tax altogether and just do a flat sales tax, valued added tax. That means if I decide to spend my money, I get to give some of it up. If I want to be a curmudgeon and keep my money in my pocket, I should be allowed to keep it. I know, it's unrealistic. That's the way it is. I was dealing with some estate planning issues recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was really interesting. This is my first time ever having this experience.
What happened?
Well, this guy, he's receiving about $500,000 pursuant to a will. And
good for him.
yeah, except for the fact that about 3 months ago, he got final discharge in his bankruptcy. Not mine. I didn't represent him for that. He just came to me to get more information about what he could do and wouldn't do. And it turns out that he had the entitlement to this will long before he filed the
For bankruptcy.
Yep. And so now it looks like the $130,000 in creditor debt that he got rid of in bankruptcy looks like he's going to have to be paying that money out of the $500,000 to the trustee. Because that's one of those things that if you file for bankruptcy and you win the lottery, and within 6 months of the discharge, guess what? You get to pay out. And if you get an inheritance, you get to pay up.
Wow. If only that inheritance had waited a little bit longer,
Yeah, it reminds me of that
Would've
comment
been okay.
about death and taxes.
Yep.
In this case, death what causes taxes to be paid.
That's
No.
right.
It was very interesting. He came to my office. We sat down. We talked about it. And, he's looking for all sorts of different ways to try to avoid it. And I'm saying to him, there's no honest way to do that. And then he looked at me like, well, okay, what's a dishonest way? And I was like laughing because, there's jokes out there about lawyers being liars and, lawyers have a license to steal and it's really funny because it's not happening in my office. But, I don't know what attorneys are out there that are giving these unscrupulous pieces of advice. I mean, then again, what's that name? The name of that attorney down here, the one that had the nice cars? What was his name?
The one that had the nice
Goldstein,
cars.
Goldsmith. Oh God, what was the guy that was basically a lawyer that scammed everybody out of a few $1 million? Not a few $1 million, quite a few $1 million. I guess there's dishonorable people in every profession, but most attorneys will not be trying to figure out how to turn around and break the law.
Yeah.
It's not the nature of there are ways to work the law, but I don't think you're going to get a good lawyer telling you how to break the law. It reminds me when I was much younger, and it's shocking, but I had a mistress, like a madame, one of those dominatrixes, call me on the phone and ask me about all the, this is when I was working for another law firm before I was in my own little place, and she was asking me all these questions about the law, and then would this break the law if I did this, and it just shocks me, and well, where's the line drawn? I said, well, I guess when he complains. I don't know. I mean, she was quite an interesting person because I never had to advise anybody on how do you break the law.
That's interesting.
The law says this, yes, but well, does that mean this? I said, well, it depends. I think you break the law when you get caught. And you definitely
That's one way to look at it.
You were telling me earlier today I was a bad boy because she found out I went on the HOV lane. I just admitted that, didn't I? It's a small ticket. I can afford it. But yeah, I did. I think there was a few other people in the HOV lane that didn't have a passenger with them either.
Uh-oh.
It was,
Do you know a baby counts, though? My friend got pulled over recently, and she said, nope, I've got my baby in the back, and she was good to go. No ticket.
Do you know, I have a punching bag in front of my house that looks like a human being. It's called Century Bob XL. It's like a full torso of a male body with no arms.
Yeah, I know Bob.
My brother dressed him up and drove the HOV lane for months before he finally got caught.
I can't believe he got caught. Does he have tint on his windows? He should have just...
He had tint on his windows, but I have to tell you, a very nice... I'm sure he's a very nice Florida highway patrolman. Didn't see any humor in it. My brother tried to make jokes about it and whatever, and all he could say was, he says, at least you put a seatbelt on him.
No click it or ticket.
No click it, no ticket. And well, how could he ticket him for Bob? Bob's not a human being.
What if he was just transporting Bob? I mean,
every day to work, because he took him home as soon as he got home. Yeah. No, Bob XL. I have to tell you, if you want to have something that kids love most, get yourself a Century Bob, and you bring him home, and the kids will love you. And, of course, they'll bother you less.
It's also great for getting out some aggression. You can punch him a couple times.
Absolutely. They've actually snagged my Bob a couple of times. It's really funny. What do you call it? I came home on a Friday night late, and Bob was gone.
Oh, no.
And I was kind of upset about it, so I went into the computer and immediately bought myself a replacement because I was not going to let somebody make me so unhappy. And so I went and I bought myself a new Bob, because one Bob's as good as another. And
don't let Bob hear you say that.
No, well, Bob doesn't hear. I can hit him, kick him to the ground. He just bounces back up as if it never bothered him. But what was really funny is here I have ordered a new Bob, and Sunday night, before 12 o'clock, somebody returned my Bob. Of course, he was they'd emptied out the water that was in the base, and he was sitting beside my property, and I said to myself, well, who would steal my Bob and then return my Bob? And my brother said probably he took it home, and his mother saw it and said, where'd you get it? Found that he stole it and said, you take that back right now. It's good to have mothers. Mothers are supposed to be the center of everybody. So listen, let's talk a little bit more about law today versus Bob. Because we don't want to entertain. We don't want to entertain these people. We want to put them to sleep while they're driving, right? So, did you hear about a woman who sued Kohl's for harassing them over an unpaid $20 bill?
No way. What happened?
Yeah, it's so funny. Up in
I love Kohl's.
I know.
Great.
Me too. I shop there all the time.
Bucks and
I know.
You're good to go.
I went out with my secretary. She had to have some special outfit for a night, and I said, listen, let's go shopping because it's fun to buy kids things, including your own employees. So we went shopping, and we spent a few $100s. And the next thing I know, they hand back money to her, and she reaches out and she takes the change. I thought I was married for a second there. It was so funny. Yeah, no, they basically stalking her and harassing her by phone over an undue credit card bill and calling her at all hours of day and night for a measly $20. Well, $20 adds up.
It does.
If you have a whole bunch of 20s out there that are owed to you and you don't go collecting them, you don't get them.
That's right.
But basically what ended up happening is that she sued them under the Fair Debt Collection Act and the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Now, Bank of America last year agreed to pay $32 million to settle such claims for robotic debt collection services. And Discover settled a similar type class action for $16 million. Now, the individual person probably saw a few $100s, and the average attorney saw quite a nice percentage. But whatever the case may be is that just because you owe money doesn't mean that anybody has the right to abuse you. And quite candidly, if you do have somebody that's abusing you, calling you all hours of the night, you need to keep a log. Ask who's calling, get a name or identity number that they usually have. Ask them to give you more information you have about the time that they called you, about what firm is calling you. Sometimes they subcontract the collection agencies to do these things. You're allowed to write them a letter and tell them to cease and desist all communication except to verify the debt in writing. So they can only send you mail. They can't call you on the phone. They're not supposed to call you at work. They're not supposed to talk to your secretary about your personal business matters, but they do. And these are violations that you can actually go after them and sue them. And if it turns out that they do it a lot, then it can be turned into a class action lawsuit as you become more and more aware of the fact that other people are doing it. But it takes a lot of effort to turn it into a class action. As if an individual, there's generally a $1,000 fine, and that can become multiple thousands of dollars if it becomes an outrageous situation. But for all intents and purposes, they can't just call you anytime they want. And you could stop them from calling them by sending them a letter to cease and desist, communicating with you except in writing, and except to determine whether or not the validity of the debt. So it's really important.
Yeah,
it's
and a lot
really
of people do not know that. They think, I owe this money, I have to accept whatever this debt collection company is going to do, and that's just not the case.
You know, if you're going under the federal act, under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, you're each is allowed to sue for $500 per violation, or up to $1,500 per call if they can prove that the party on the other side violated the law knowingly. And so you can see that can really add up. And if you send them correspondence that proves that they received the correspondence, $1,500 per call, and they called you 27 times. It can add up really quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, we actually do go after people for unfair debt collection. There's a lot of people out there that they work in the idea that only a small percentage are going to complain. And so, therefore, we'll do what we want to do, and we'll incur the cost. Right. Because only a small percentage. So that's why it's kind of important for you to harass the harassers. Because the more it costs them, the less likely they're going to go ahead and do this. So once again, you can sue people for harassing you.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, you have to know your rights.
Now, this woman sued for an unpaid $20 bill. But you can sue for a $100,000 bill. It doesn't matter how much they're collecting from you. It just matters if they break the law.
That's right.
So once again, it's important to get a qualified attorney.
Absolutely.
Are we qualified to help these people over the People's Advocate?
I believe that we are.
I think we are too, and we're here to help out. So tell me a little bit what more exciting things are going on with you today.
Well, I've got some good news.
Oh, what's that?
The House has voted to make small business tax credits permanent, which is exciting for small businesses, which is the...
What are small business tax credits? What are they? What is that?
Well, essentially, it's going to allow the small businesses in our country, which I believe are really the backbone of our country.
Backbone.
My father had his own business my whole life, and I think it's extremely important that we support small businesses and allow them to continue to thrive. But a couple years ago, the federal government actually decreased the credit allowed to small businesses to $125,000. They are hoping to bring it back up to $500,000. The House has just voted on this bill, and it could be very, very soon actually into law, which is very exciting. $500,000 would be a very, very favorable tax benefit for a lot of small businesses.
And they can take advantage of that, which means when they're going to hire people and stuff like that, they can actually afford it.
That's right.
Wow. This is good news.
Yeah, it can definitely stimulate the economy and help a lot of businesses who are hurting from some of the big fish out there.
Wow.
It's always good to share good news. I think that's exciting.
I just think it's great. You know, I'm seeing here that SunTrust paid out $1 billion over foreclosures and mortgage practices. But I'm not going to see any of that money, am I?
Probably not.
No. It looks like it's going to be going to the Department of Justice, and $40 million is going to take care of 48,000 borrowers, and then $10 million to the government for fines, and $418 million to the Department of Justice, and maybe they're going to give $500 million in relief to struggling borrowers, which means that they're probably going to give more modifications.
That's right. So have you seen a lot of abusive foreclosure practices over your years?
Yeah, I've seen it, and I still see it today. The reality is that, with all due respect, with the exception of maybe Wells Fargo, most of the banks out there participated in a lot of this shenanigans, a lot of this lack of care, whether the person has the ability to pay, or all these different choices. And as a consequence, the market blew up The balloon burst. And I personally think that the banks are directly responsible for the economic downturn, the loss of trillions of dollars in our economy. And I think that even though they weren't legally required when they got the TARP, and other companies that didn't get the TARP, I think that those that participated in these debentures and these, vehicles for investors that created this economic downturn that we're still hurting from, should have been required to resolve the issues with the borrowers. Because quite candidly, why are the short sales going on? Well, because the market's been destroyed. The value of properties went down 30, in some cases 40% here in Broward County. And this was caused by what the banks did, directly resulting from what the banks did. So, to me, the banks should step up to the plate and take care of and cleaning up their mess. Instead, they just want to continue to make money. I don't see a lot of banks going under because of these deals, with the exception of Wwnn, which was one of the biggest players. Or with the exception of Countrywide, another big player. But everybody else jumped in on the bandwagon to make all this money and cause the value of properties to go up. Now, there are some individual players out there that bought properties and were flipping properties and were also part of the problem. But the banks weren't responsible. They're irresponsible. And as a consequence, our society has been hurt by them. And nobody that's responsible for what transpired has ever stepped up to the plate and say, okay, we've done this, let's do the right thing. They've been like bad little kids, screaming and shouting all the way. Anyways, I guess it's not time for a break. I think we're going to get time for a break coming up. This is the People's Advocate Hour. My name is Joseph Bryan, and I'm here with attorney Lawrence Malis, and we're here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 888-565-1470. We are streaming on Wwnn 1470.com. Feel free to see us online. We'll be right back.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Bryan today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Bryan Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Bryan will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida attorney Joseph Bryan. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Well, thank you for coming back. We're in our last 6 minutes. I know you guys are excited. Because we're always during the last 6 minutes is much more exciting. Listen, somebody calls into our office at 954-320-6940. 954-320-6940. Does that sound like a phone sex line now? I don't know. Anyways, and our offices are conveniently located in Hollywood.
That's right.
So halfway between Fort Lauderdale courthouses and the Miami courthouses. Easy for me to get to the back and forth. I like the location. And we meet even on the weekends when necessary, because that's the kind of stuff we do. What can a person expect to happen when they sit down and meet with you?
Well, all of our consultations are absolutely free.
So you're going to sit down there and talk to somebody and not charge them?
That's right. I mean, we like to put a strategy together, get the facts of your case, talk to you about your options, and then go from there, just so we can get a feel for what you're facing.
Now, I have people that come in sometimes to talk to me about bankruptcy, and sometimes the conversation goes into foreclosure. Is that going to still happen? Absolutely, right?
Of course. I mean, a lot of the issues overlap, and sometimes that can end up going into taxes.
Oh, Taxes.
More often than not.
More often than not, there's a tax issue to be concerned with.
That's right.
Now, there's lots of options for people, and they should sit down and talk to a competent attorney, and you're one of them.
I am.
And, of course, being a people's advocate, you give free consultations.
I do.
And you go over what's going on in their lives, and sometimes it goes far beyond the things that you're discussing, but you, sometimes if it's not something you know, you have other friends that are great, competent attorneys who are also people's advocates.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we refer to other attorneys, if there's any issues, it's something that we don't understand, we can't handle, it's not our specialty. I focus on taxes, business planning, estate planning, and if there's anything, we can always refer to you, a great attorney. I have, we have personal injury attorneys.
Now, we do probate in the office, don't we?
Probate.
We do estate planning.
That's right.
Which involves some of the tax issues, especially when they got lots of money.
Absolutely.
And we also do help people with dealing with debt issues, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean bankruptcy, does it?
No,
sometimes bankruptcy is not a good answer.
Yeah, bankruptcy is not always the right answer. There's other options. We have a lot of clients who work with the IRS, do payment plans. We figure out what's going on, and you don't always just assume that the IRS's audit is correct. Fight the audit
They make
sometimes.
mistakes.
Absolutely. You
Watch
always
out.
got to make sure you fight and you understand what's going on, and you talk to a tax practitioner about your tax issues.
Now, there's been a lot of people who have lost homes in the form of short sales and foreclosures, and sometimes they need to get some advice on how to go about recreating their future.
Absolutely.
And of course, sometimes people have found that everything's been taken from them due to lawsuits and other different things, and they're thinking about their future, and they kind of want to have an asset protection plan. Is there something about asset protection that somebody should know? I guess they should know that it's also part of estate planning, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, you're really planning for your life. You're being a smart, informed individual and planning for the future, which I think is very important. It's going to make your life a lot easier down the road. And you're in control of your life. You're in the driver's seat.
Of course, if you keep everything in your name, then we have to worry about all the different issues, don't we?
That's right.
That means that you're exposed to all the creditors.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody slips and falls in your house and there's no proper insurance for the slip and the fall, they're going to sue you, and they can get money not just from your house.
That's right. We have a lot of people we recommend they put property into a trust or they form an LLC and they move property into the LLC. It's all about protecting yourself and being informed.
Making a proper structure.
That's right.
And that's something that's going to happen after sitting down with an attorney who looks over your assets, looks over your exposure, and comes up with an estate plan
Absolutely.
that probably has an asset protection party to it.
That's right. It's not just for people who have millions of dollars in the bank. It's for people that are saving for their future. They have small businesses. They want to make sure that they're protecting their children.
They want to avoid monies being given to the wrong people when they pass. They want to pass
Absolutely.
it through beforehand. And I think that one of the other thing is that when you are building something, that's the time to put the plan into action.
Mm-hmm.
I had these gentlemen come to me, and they're looking at a possible exposure of close to $20 or $30 million.
Wow.
And they had thought that they were covered by the corporate veil, but unfortunately they have circumvented it by claiming fraud. Whether that's true or not doesn't really matter. The claim is there. And insurances will cover a certain amount, but the rest is going to be looking at them. And they should have really made the plans before they gained the wealth and done the structures before they gained the wealth so that they could protect themselves. And so therefore, even if a judgment was to issue, there'd be nothing to attach. But of course, now that they've been sued, any transfers that are made are transfers to avoid creditors.
That's right.
Maybe.
Yeah. It'll definitely be scrutinized.
It's definitely going to be scrutinized. Listen, if you want to come on in and see us, call us at the office at 954-320-6940. This is the People's Advocate. We're here to help you. Our offices are conveniently located at 1930 Harrison Street, Suite 204, Hollywood, Florida, 33020. And Lauren and I are there for you. We are the People's Advocate. Anyways, I wanted to go over anything else today. Yeah. Be aware that credit cards do follow you in death. You pass away. If you haven't arranged for things to transfer upon death before an estate has to be formed and going to probate, then all your debts will be paid from the assets that are still in your estate. And you may find yourself in a position where all these things go away to the creditors, and there's nothing left over for your kids.
And that's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
Especially if it could have been avoided.
Oh. So, no, it can. And, standing from the position of a people's advocate, I'm interested in taking care of the people, small businesses, medium-sized businesses. We've got some great tax strategies for people that are trying to figure out their future with the way things are going and the additional expenses that are going on there and the inflation going on there. A nickel saved here and a dime saved there really adds up to real money.
It does.
So
especially over a long period of time.
Right. And one of the things that you can get from doing business with Lauren is good solid tax strategies.
That's right. Tax strategies planning for your future, for upon death, which no one ever wants to talk about when they die. That's never an exciting and fun topic, but I think it's important to plan so that your loved ones will be protected and they will have a lot less stress if you make sure that you plan early on in your life.
I had somebody come by to visit me recently, and they wanted to go over what they needed to do to avoid going through probate and avoid having things in the estate when they passed. And they were in advanced stages of illness, and they knew that their time was coming. And we looked over all their assets, and there was just so many ways in which they could make it so that it wasn't there when they passed. When the moment you pass, if you have a totem trust with your bank account, that it goes to somebody else upon your death, that bank account is not part of your estate for purposes of probate when you pass.
That's right.
They could have done a life estate. Could have done lots of different things. Well, listen, it's time for us to say goodbye. Drive safely out there. This is Joe Bryan with Lauren Smalis. This is the People's Advocate. Be good. Be happy.
You have been listening to the People's Advocate Hour with Attorney Joseph Bryan. Join Attorney Joseph Bryan next week on the People's Advocate as you need to know your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure. You can also contact our office at 954-889-7443 for a free consultation. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.